Wealthy grandmother exposed, how her grandson's incredible act changed everything in just 30 days. Jason Gallagher stared out the window of his grandparents' sprawling estate, his heart heavy with the burden of wealth and expectation. In the picturesque town of Maplewood, luxury reigned supreme, but beneath the surface, the local diner, a beloved haven for families and veterans, struggled to survive. Closing its doors, a place that exuded laughter and camaraderie, would tear at the fabric of their community. It was a life Jason had grown weary of, one crafted by his elegant grandmother, Eleanor, whose heart seemed as frozen as the marble floors of their mansion. That he thought of the diner, home to steaming cups of coffee, laughter ringing around the worn counter, and smiles exchanged over plates of pancakes. The realization struck him like a slap: he had to do something. His chest tightened as he pondered the hope nestled within those walls. "I can't let this place disappear," he whispered, fury and passion simmering beneath his polished exterior. Jason kicked off his shoes, pacing the ornate room, the weight of privilege squeezing tighter around him. Maybe he could rally support. One intense moment of clarity jolted him awake. What if he could save the diner in just 30 days? Armed with passion and naivete, he launched a challenge not only against the diner's imminent closure but against his own insecurities. He gathered a team of locals, but they looked at him like a naive trust fund kid trying to play hero. "What do you know about struggle, rich boy?" A barista sneered, and for the first time, he sensed the palpable divide between himself and them. Each scoff was a crack in his resolve, yet beneath the sneers, he felt a flicker of determination. "He could be more than his label. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As days slipped away like sand through fingers, the hidden depths of his family's empire began to unravel before him. The reason for Eleanor's affluence, the very foundations of her wealth, came to light in hushed whispers. It was built on the backs of local business owners, crushed dreams sacrificed for her social aspirations. His chest clenched, the conflict ripping him apart. Could he really stand against the legacy of privilege he was tied to? In a dramatic confrontation, he faced Eleanor, her icy persona cracking under the weight of his words. "People need this place. They've sacrificed so much," and his voice trembled with emotion. The silence hung thick, heavy, until Eleanor shocked him with her own vulnerability. Undeterred, Jason sparked a series of community events designed to uplift the diner's spirits. Suddenly, townsfolk united, veterans shared tales of laughter over breakfast, and single parents found solace in the warm environment. Together, they discovered their strength as a community. One afternoon, beneath a golden sunset, Eleanor stepped forward, her expression unreadable. The town watched in awe as she made a stunning announcement: a generous public donation to save the diner. Gasps echoed through the crowd, and debates ignited, leaving Jason breathless. Hope and uncertainty mingled in the air. Would this be a turning point for them all? As the townsfolk looked on, a mix of admiration and wariness flickered in their eyes. Would they embrace Eleanor's generosity, or hold on to the past? The clock continued to tick. Jason's heart raced. The challenge was far from over. Jason swallowed hard, tension rising in the air like steam from the coffee pots at the diner. Eleanor's voice rang out across the gathering crowd, each word like a stone hitting the surface of a pond, sending ripples of uncertainty through the townsfolk. "It's time for change," she finally declared, her eyes scanning the faces before her. "But this must be a team effort." He blinked, grappling with sudden disbelief. Was this really happening? The very woman he had fought against for what felt like eternity now stood ready to be an ally. Could they really work together? Hope blossomed tentatively in his chest, but just as quickly, doubt crept in. Was her gesture genuine or another calculated move to maintain her status? The weight of skepticism hung like a storm cloud overhead. What happens if she turns her back on us again? A voice called out from the crowd, echoing the thoughts swirling in Jason's mind that he noticed the glances exchanged between the townsfolk conveying a mix of apprehension and guarded excitement. His own anxiety twisted inside him, a mix of excitement about the donation and fear of betrayal yet again. We have to make sure this isn't just a band-aid, he called out, cutting through the murmurs. We need a clear plan for how to build on this. There's so much more at stake. Easy for you to say, kid. The barista from earlier shouted back, crossing her arms. You've never had to fight for anything. Jason felt a sting in his chest, the truth of her words cutting deeper than he expected. Did she know who he really was behind the facade? Did anyone truly understand the struggles he faced, torn between two worlds? You're right, he admitted, looking straight at her. But that's why I'm here. I'm ready to stand with you, to learn and to fight for this diner. For all of us. As murmurs rippled through the group, Jason's words hung in the air, sourcing sparks of resilience. He could feel a shift starting. Let us bring the diner back to life, he said, determination pouring from him. Let us make it a place where every voice matters. The crowd slowly began to nod in agreement, the skepticism melting into something new hope. They started to lean in, sharing ideas about fundraiser events, partnerships with local artists, and a community menu that involved everyone's favorite dishes, but as they laid the groundwork for a brighter future, Jason noticed Eleanor's expression shift. She seemed to retreat further into her own thoughts, her mask slipping back into place. This was the woman who had built her empire on a foundation of keeping her community at arm's length. Would she truly move towards meaningful change? Or would this act of generosity lead them nowhere? As the sun dipped lower, Jason found himself lost in a bitter mix of optimism and doubt. The next 30 days were crucial, and he felt the eyes of the entire town upon him. Every word uttered would count, every moment seized would matter. What if we fail? He asked himself, but deep down, an ember fueled his spirit. Time was running out, and as nights blurred into days, Jason needed to leverage every moment wisely. With Eleanor in tow, would the community emerge from the shadows stronger than before? Or would her history drown their efforts before they even began? The prospect of failure loomed shadowy and real. But somehow, he believed in the family he was creating with the townsfolk. And now it was time to put this belief to the test. What would happen when the truth of Eleanor's past finally came to light? Would it tear them apart or forge an unbreakable bond? One thing was clear, the clock was ticking, and the ultimate test was just around the corner. The next morning felt different. Jason woke to the sun streaming through his window, illuminating the fragments of determination that still clung to him from yesterday's meeting. The diner was buzzing with potential, but it was also heavy with uncertainty. He tossed back the covers and sprang to action, knowing today was critical. At the diner, the scent of fresh coffee mingled with the sound of clattering dishes as they transformed the space into something vibrant and hopeful. Jason jumped in, cleaning tables alongside the barista, who'd been so vocal the day before. Her name was Mia, and today, she was less the skeptic and more the fierce ally. I'll help, she said, scrubbing stubborn spots from tables. But we can't keep things the same. We've got to be bold. Bold it is, Jason replied, adrenaline kicking in. Together, they brainstormed ideas, discussing local artists who could display their work on the walls. The decision to create a community night aimed at bringing everyone together flickered to life, a new way to celebrate each person's story. As the midday sun climbed higher, the atmosphere shifted. Eleanor arrived, her presence drawing the attention of those gathered. Yet this time, it was mixed with anticipation rather than hostility. Did they really trust her? The doubts loomed like shadows, but Jason pressed on. He took a step forward, feeling courage feed his voice. Eleanor. He called, motioning her to join him. We're making plans. We want to put our heads together and really make this place shine. What do you think? The crowd watched, eyes glimmering with hope and tension. Eleanor hesitated, her gaze flicking from Jason to the crowd. He could see the gears turning in her mind, wrestling with the vulnerability that came with being genuinely involved. I'm in, she finally said, though the uncertainty in her voice remained palpable. Jason felt a rush of warmth. They could do it. Slowly, he saw the twinkle of excitement in her eyes, a flicker of the partnership they desperately needed. Great! Let's get the ideas flowing, he urged. But behind that glow, Jason sensed Eleanor's internal struggle. For every step forward, there seemed to be a weight holding her back. The lines of her face hinted at long-buried fear. What was she hiding? As the day rolled on, he noticed her find excuses to disappear, slipping away when discussions grew more earnest. Was it fear of commitment? Or something deeper? As the days passed, a plan began to hatch: a charity event at the diner to gather the community. There were Eleanor's social connections to tap into, and Jason felt a nervous thrill at the thought of it. This could work. He shouted to the group during one of their evening meetings, the energy infectious. But as Jason poured his heart into organizing, he couldn't shake the feeling that with each smile from the townsfolk, Eleanor's mood seemed to darken. Why couldn't she embrace the unity that everyone was trying to create? The more he pondered it, the more determined he was to peel back the layers. Was her past truly a shadow that would come crashing down on their fledgling hope? The thought gnawed at him. When he finally cornered her one afternoon, the question hung heavy in the air. Eleanor, he said, voice steady, you can't run away from this. We're all in this together, and that means you, too. Her eyes softened, but that storm of doubt flickered back. I've protected this town in my own way, Jason, but what if they see me differently when they know the truth? The raw vulnerability in her voice struck him. He took a breath, the weight of her unspoken fears washing over him. Could confrontations like these spark the promise of transformation for both of them? Yet he sensed they were on the brink of something monumental. Unraveling the tapestry of their community, one thread at a time. Would it pull them closer in understanding, or unravel them completely? As the charity date approached, Jason realized that the shifting tides of their fates rested not just on the plans they pinned, but on the truths yet to unfold. And in that moment, he knew, the answers were just around the corner, shrouded in the very secrets that could change everything. The following morning felt electric. Jason stirred awake with a buzz in his chest. Today was the charity event's final planning day, and he could hardly contain the excitement bubbling inside him. He rolled out of bed and raced to the diner, the vibrant chatter of the community dancing around him as he entered. The moment he stepped inside, he was greeted by the comforting aroma of buttery pancakes and sizzling bacon. Mia was already there, orchestrating the flow of orders with a radiant smile. You're just in time. We've got a lot to do. The town is counting on us, she said, her enthusiasm infectious. Jason joined her and immediately fell into a rhythm. They arranged tables for the event, and a flutter of anticipation wove itself into every corner of the diner. As they hung cheerful banners and displayed handmade decorations, the vision of what the charity night could become solidified, but among the excitement, Jason couldn't help but glance over to Eleanor. She sat at the corner booth, her expression a mixture of anxiety and determination. How much had she truly opened up? He wanted to unravel that part of her, wanting her to let go of whatever it was that held her back. Hey, Eleanor, he called softly, approaching her table, we could really use your creativity right now. This place is starting to feel special. She looked up, half-heartedly flashing a smile, but he noticed a hint of resistance behind it. I'm just thinking about the event. It's a big deal, she responded, her fingers tracing patterns on the table. Yeah, it is. But that's what makes it important, Jason said, leaning against the table, his voice earnest. We need you. The community needs you. You're part of this, remember? Eleanor's eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of tension passing through her. You don't understand, Jason. Opening up comes with consequences. There are parts of me that I'm not proud of. Jason felt his heart race. Everyone has a past, Eleanor. But it doesn't define us. It's how we choose to move forward that counts. Her gaze dropped, and Jason could almost see the battle waging within her. Would she let fear dictate this moment? The charity event meant so much more than just fundraising, it was a chance to bridge divides, including her own. Suddenly, a loud cheer erupted from the kitchen. The staff had made a vote the special on the event menu would feature Eleanor's favorite dish. "Oh, no," she muttered, shaking her head with disbelief. "What?" Jason asked, caught between confusion and excitement. "This is not what I wanted," she sighed, her words trailing off as she fought the urge to rise, to flee. "Eleanor, you can do this. You're stronger than you think. Let us not shy away from who you are. Let us own it together." Jason extended his hand toward her as if to physically bridge the gap. The crowd in the diner sensed the tension, hushed whispers flitting about. It was palpable. After what felt like forever, she reached for his hand, her grip tentatively firm. Jason felt a surge of warmth as if a door had cracked open. "Okay," she breathed out, her voice barely above a whisper. "Okay, I'll help, but what if they don't accept me? You'll never know if you don't show them. Today is about our community, not just you or me. It's about us." She took a deep breath, and a flicker of hope sparked in her eyes. What if they see the truth and it changes everything? Jason smiled, pulling her closer into the warmth of the diner. "Then we'll deal with it together. That's what family is for." As the charity night loomed ever closer, uncertainty hung thick in the air, but so did a kind of excitement. Would Eleanor's revelation transform their unity or tear it apart? With the stage set for a night full of hope and perhaps several surprises, Jason realized that life was about to unravel in ways he had never imagined. What hidden connections would be revealed when the truth finally came to light? As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the sleepy town felt alive with anticipation. Jason tossed aside his apron and focused on the hours ahead. The diner buzzed with activity, filled with people who shared stories, laughter, and warm meals. It was the heartbeat of the community, and he knew tonight's charity event could solidify that rhythm or tear it apart. That he glanced at Eleanor, who had rolled up her sleeves and plunged into preparing the dish that would showcase her talent. The initial tension seemed to be melting, replaced by a newfound determination. As she diced vegetables with nimble fingers, there was a flicker of something different in her confidence, perhaps. It made his heart race with hope. "Look at you," he called out, grinning as he stepped closer. "You're a natural. This dish is going to bring the house down." Eleanor glanced up, a hint of a smile breaking through her focused expression. "Thanks, Jason. I just want it to be perfect. This means everything." "You know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real," he replied, his eyes sparkling with sincerity. The sound of nearby laughter faded into the background as he leaned against the counter. "People will love it because it's part of you. That's all they really want." As the hours trickled by, they prepared the last details. Jason noticed how the diner filled with folks excited for the event, sharing their anticipation through lively banter and shared laughter. It was contagious, pulling Eleanor into the warmth of the moment. But even with all the joy around them, Jason felt a twinge of anxiety. What if their efforts weren't enough? What if Eleanor's worries about acceptance became a reality? Just as he felt the knot tightening in his stomach, Mia trotted over, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "The decorations look incredible," she exclaimed, adjusting the favors with a practiced hand. "We're ready for a great night, aren't we?" "Absolutely." Just waiting for Eleanor's dish to steal the show, Jason chimed in. Mia raised an eyebrow. "Speaking of which, how is she doing? Is she ready?" Jason sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I think so, but she just needs that final push. If she can overcome this fear, it'll spark something great. Have faith in her. She can do this," Mia said, her voice assuring. The sun sank lower, painting the diner in hues of amber and crimson. As the last preparations unfolded, a sense of unity filtered through the room. Each interaction, every laugh, drew them together, teasing the possibility of change. Soon it was time for the event to begin. The diner filled to capacity as locals took their seats, chatting about the night ahead. Jason's heart raced as he kept an eye on Eleanor, who stood in the kitchen, breathing deeply. He knew she needed this moment to step into the light. With a final glance at Eleanor, Jason grabbed the microphone and stepped to the front of the room, the crowd settling into eager silence. Tonight isn't just about raising funds. It's about each and every one of us coming together to support something bigger. Murmurs of agreement swept through, and he felt Eleanor's gaze on him. Taking a deep breath, he continued, "We all have stories, things we might be scared to share. But that's what brings us together." With one last look at Eleanor, he extended the mic toward her. "And now, I want to introduce someone who embodies that spirit. Eleanor, it's your turn." Everyone turned as she stepped into view, the lights shining brightly on her anxious yet shining face. Jason watched as Eleanor hesitated, uncertainty flooding her features. Would she take the leap? Moments stretched, time seemed suspended as she searched for strength in the crowd. Finally, the diner's collective encouragement washed over her like a wave. Taking a deep breath, she began to speak, her voice shaking but resolute. Before she could finish, the door swung open and an unexpected figure stepped in, silencing the room. The woman, regal and commanding, glanced around the diner, her eyes narrowing as they fell upon Eleanor. Eleanor, the voice, dripped with familiarity, evoking tension that gripped the audience. As the crowd leaned forward, holding their breath, Jason's heart raced. Who was this woman? And what connection did she have to Eleanor's past? In that pivotal moment, under the bright, warm lights of the diner, the stakes changed. Would Eleanor find the strength to confront her truth, or would this unexpected arrival disrupt everything they'd worked for? Eleanor felt her heart sink as she locked eyes with the woman. 1,000 memories flooded back, memories she had worked so hard to bury. The glimmer from the bustling diner faded for her, replaced by the sharp edges of a past she thought she had escaped. She cleared her throat, effortfully trying to gain her voice amid the sudden silence. "Who are you?" she stammered, her breath hitching in disbelief. The woman stepped forward, and Eleanor's pulse quickened as recognition washed over her. "It's me, Margaret. Your grandmother," she said, her voice smooth yet tinged with authority. Gasps echoed through the diner, and a murmur of curiosity rippled as Jason instinctively stepped closer to Eleanor. The tension was palpable. He could feel her trembling, the familiar warmth of her confidence evaporating in an instant. "Why are you here?" Eleanor managed, grappling with feelings she thought she had left behind. Her heart raced, adrenaline coursing through her veins as if she were a child again, unable to stand up to the woman who once ruled her world with stringent expectations. "Because, dear, you're finally doing something worth my attention," Margaret replied, her eyes flicking around the diner's rustic charm, as if judging its worth. "I've come to see if you have what it takes to be part of our family legacy." Eleanor recoiled. "I'm not what you wanted," she whispered harshly, the words spilling out before she could catch them. "I'm not here for your approval." This time, Jason felt the tremors of Eleanor's anger. He could see the flicker of defiance in her eyes. This was the moment she had to own. He wanted to step in, to defend her, but he knew now was her time alone. Margaret raised an eyebrow, a glimmer of amusement dancing on her lips. "It seems you've grown a backbone, Eleanor. But running a little diner won't get you anywhere in the world of high society." The crowd only watched in silence, the weight of tension thickening the air. Some seemed unsure whether to cheer for Eleanor's outburst or step back from this intense familial clash. "I don't care about high society," Eleanor shouted, her voice slipping slightly but still commanding attention. "I care about this community. I care about people who support each other. I care about making food that brings joy to others." Jason felt a wave of warmth surge. There it was, the real Eleanor, the one who shone through her fear. He wanted to shout his approval, but he held back, allowing Eleanor to command the moment. The crowd erupted into scattered applause, each clap adding to Eleanor's courage. But Margaret frowned, clearly unaccustomed to the idea that anyone could refuse her influence. "Is that what you want?" she asked, casting disdain at the diner's familiar walls. "To be just another small-town cook?" In an instant, Eleanor's gaze sharpened, locking onto her grandmother's steely demeanor. "I am proud of who I am and the food I create. I won't let you intimidate me anymore. Not tonight. Not ever." Jason's heart swelled with pride as the other patrons began to cheer. He sensed a change, not just in Eleanor's stance, but in the very fabric of the diner. This confrontation was no longer just a family matter, it was a declaration of self-worth, a stand against a past that lingered like a shadow. Margaret stared incredulously, her poise faltering slightly. "You think you can go against our family? You think you can thrive here?" Eleanor took a step forward, her voice unwavering. "I don't have to compete with you or anyone else. I'm not defined by your expectations." But before Margaret could respond, the back door swung open, revealing an unexpected figure: the town's mayor, a jovial man with a smile that could brighten even the darkest day. "Eleanor. I couldn't wait another minute. Your dish is ready to be judged at the tasting event." The crowd buzzed with excitement, eager to rally around Eleanor. But as Jason looked back at Margaret, he wondered if this was the moment Eleanor had truly been waiting for, or just the beginning of an even bigger conflict. As the energy surged through the diner, Margaret stepped back, her features inscrutable. One thing was clear: tonight was not just about a dish or a charity, it was about a battle for identity and belonging. Eleanor took a deep breath, affirming her resolve as she faced the crowd. But in her chest, anxiety twisted itself around a question: could she really move forward and embrace this new chapter, or was she merely standing at the precipice, with the weight of her past still looming? The night pressed on, but the tension perpetually lingered, as if something bigger was waiting to unfold, just beyond reach. Eleanor felt electric energy swirling around her. The applause had ignited something inside her that she had buried for years: a fierce dedication to her craft. She could feel the eyes of the diner on her, expectant and supportive, and yet, her gaze returned to Margaret, who stood, arms crossed, with a face that was a mask of disappointment. "Let me show you what it means to create," Eleanor declared, her voice steady. The challenge hung in the air like the sweet aroma of her signature dish. "Eleanor," Jason whispered, stepping closer. "You don't have to prove anything to her. Just focus on your dish." But she nodded, fueled not just by his support but also by a fierce need to stand her ground. She stepped toward the kitchen, determination painted across her face. Jason wished desperately that he could accompany her, offer encouragement amidst the heat and chaos. He watched as she disappeared behind the swinging door, the dim light of the kitchen engulfing her. Inside, the kitchen buzzed with activity as Eleanor moved like she was born to it. She chopped, sautéed, and seasoned with a confidence that had been absent before. Each motion felt like a step away from the past, a move toward a future she had always imagined for herself. But then she caught her reflection in the polished kitchen utensils. Her grandmother's words crept back into her mind, echoing bitterly. "Just another small-town cook." The shade of doubt threatened to creep back in, but she reminded herself of the supportive faces waiting just outside. "Focus," she whispered to herself. The dish needed to shine, not just for the judges but for her own soul. Moments later, she carefully plated the vibrant dish, a colorful melody of ingredients that sang of love and hard work. The entree, with its delicate balance of flavors, reflected the community she cherished, a testament to everything she believed in. Each element was not a competition but a celebration. Once she emerged from the kitchen, the applause was a tidal wave, crashing over her as she set the dish on the judge's table. The mayor smiled widely as he picked up his fork, anticipation written all over his face. The crowd leaned in, the moment stretched tighter as Eleanor stood tall, the smell of her creation enveloping her like a hug. "Let us see what you've got, Eleanor," the mayor said. As he took that first bite, the diner fell into a hush. Their eyes bore into him. He was the voice of their community, and his judgment would carry the weight of pride and hope. Suddenly, a murmur rippled through the crowd. The mayor's mouth curved into a full grin, and he nodded appreciatively. Laughter and cheers erupted, the glow of the diner's joy lighting up the room, but then, Eleanor felt a chill. Margaret had entered again, framing the scene like an icy storm cloud. The cheers faltered momentarily, the atmosphere swelling with uncertainty as the crowd sensed the tension rise yet again. "What have you brought us today?" Margaret asked, her voice cutting through the jubilation like glass. She stepped forward, eyes narrowed, calculating. Eleanor couldn't keep the heat from rising in her chest. "I've brought you my heart," she said, firm and defiant. "Something more valuable than any title or legacy." Margaret scoffed, her gaze moving to the plate. "I hope it tastes better than it looks." In an instant, the warmth of the crowd surged back, supporting Eleanor through her grandmother's harsh words. She squared her shoulders, the strength inside her blooming. "Try it," she shot back, a fire-lit challenge in her eyes. "And then tell me what you think." The mayor nodded at his fellow judges, and they each took a forkful. As the crowd watched, hearts beating in sync with Eleanor's, she couldn't help but wonder, would this dish not only win hearts but finally sever the ties binding her to a legacy she never wanted? Just as the judges' expressions shifted with surprise, Margaret's voice sliced through. "This better not be a fluke, Eleanor." The weight of uncertainty pressed down again, but this time Eleanor felt something different. Hope flickered in the air. Fragile yet radiant. Perhaps this was the first step to breaking free. This was just the beginning of something profound, and beyond the challenges she faced, she felt the stirrings of change within her. As they moved to announce the winner, Eleanor's heart raced, both in anticipation and fear. Could she truly redefine her life? Her gaze turned back to Jason, his smile lighting up the room. Could this be the moment everything changed? And just as the mayor stood taller to address the crowd, a loud crash erupted from the kitchen, echoing the chaotic tension throughout the diner. All eyes pivoted to the back, breaths held, realizing the night was far from over. Eleanor's heart sank as she turned toward the kitchen, the noise pulling her focus completely. The clatter of pots and pans echoed like shattered glass in her ears, and for a moment, she feared it might just be another setback, another chance for Margaret to pounce on her vulnerabilities. "Is everything okay back there?" Jason called out to her, worry dancing in his voice. Eleanor's gaze darted to the kitchen entrance, and she could see chefs rushing past each other, anxious expressions marked on their faces. The urgency felt palpable, flooding the air with tension. She needed to know what happened, but the weight of the crowd's eyes anchored her in place. Then, disaster struck anew. The kitchen door swung open wider, and a young sous chef staggered out, his face pale. The oven, it caught fire. He shouted, panic bubbling over, gasps rose from the crowd, a collective worry cascading through the diner. Eleanor felt a shiver run down her spine. The fire? Right now? It was as if fate were testing her determination. She glanced at Margaret, whose smirk had returned, sharper than ever. "See?" Margaret called out, her voice dripping with disdain. "You can't even manage a simple event without things going south." Eleanor's fists clenched at her sides. This was no time for doubt, she could feel it brewing within her, ready to burst. She refused to let Margaret's words worm under her skin, not today. "Everyone, please stay calm," Eleanor shouted, finding her own voice amidst the noise. "We're trained for this. Just follow the emergency procedures." The judges glanced at one another, surprise mingling with respect, but Margaret simply rolled her eyes, unwilling to relinquish her grip on skepticism. As the cooks rushed back into the kitchen to handle the blaze, Eleanor took a breath, her mind racing. She could either fold, succumbing to the chaos, or step up as a leader. She chose the latter. "Jason," she called, her energy shifting. "Help me gather everyone outside for safety." "I'm on it," he replied, his voice full of unwavering support. Eleanor moved through the crowd, calming people and guiding them to the exit. The warmth of their gratitude fueled her determination. She could feel the cracks in the air, openings for courage to slip through. When they had the crowd safely outside, Eleanor turned back toward the diner, her heart pounding. From this side, she could see the smoke curling out from the kitchen. The scent of burnt grease hung heavy, mixing with the sweet aroma of her dish, as if reminding her of what was at stake. "Damn it, not now," she muttered under her breath, her pulse quickening again as she thought of the dish, the one that symbolized everything she fought for. "Eleanor." Jason's voice cut through her thoughts. "They're getting it under control, but what?" The thought hung heavy between them, fraught with tension. The night could tip in any direction. She cast a glance at the diner's entrance. Amidst the chaos, Margaret remained fixed to her place, her presence a looming shadow. Eleanor's resolve ignited a fire hotter than any disaster. This was her time to shine, to show them all that she could turn a moment of chaos into one of triumph. "Let us go back in," Eleanor said, her voice steady and commanding. "We're not done yet." She marched toward the entrance, determination surging with every step. The chatter from the crowd faded, replaced by the sound of her heartbeat thrumming loudly in her chest. As she entered the restaurant, thick smoke met her, but so did the warmth of expectation from the diners. They recognized her strength, and together they defaced whatever came next. "Ready?" she asked Jason, who joined her with unwavering trust. "Always," he replied, a proud smile on his face. Eleanor pushed forward, her dreams brightening the dim atmosphere. Would they taste her victory after all this? Before she could fully reach the judges, Margaret's voice came again, colder and sharper than before. "Are you really going to make a fool of yourself, Eleanor? You really think you can overcome this?" A wave of uncertainty washed over her, but it quickly dissipated. "You have no idea how strong we can be," Eleanor shot back, and just then, from the kitchen, a burst of flames flickered up once more, a harbinger of both disaster and rebirth. With hope hanging in the balance, Eleanor drew in a breath and prepared for the next challenge. Could she turn this chaos into a moment that would redefine her and challenge the legacy that had threatened to bind her? Every heart held the answer, waiting for her to make the next bold move. Eleanor stepped deeper into the smoky chaos, her senses heightened. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to escape the suffocating air that wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. But something inside her propelled her forward. She couldn't just stand idly by while everything she worked for was in jeopardy. "Look, we need to contain this," Jason said, his brow furrowed. "I'll check with the team in the kitchen, see how bad it is." He paused, searching her face. "You sure you want to stay?" Eleanor nodded, a resolve she hadn't fully felt until that moment illuminating her heart. "Yes. I can't let this end here." As Jason disappeared back into the haze, Eleanor scanned the dining area. The patrons, although out of immediate danger, looked bewildered and frightened. She could see some loyal customers whispering to each other, their brows furrowed as they tried to process the madness unfolding. "Hey!" she called, her voice cutting through the murmur of uncertainty. "I know this is scary, but we have everything under control. Just stay calm, and we'll get through this together. Trust me." Her words seemed to catch, igniting flickers of hope in their eyes. A few people nodded, rallying around the spirit she was trying to conjure. In that moment, Eleanor learned that sometimes hope can spread like wildfire, brightening even the darkest of times. Then Margaret, always lurking like a dark cloud, interrupted the moment. "What are you hoping to do? Save the day with a few empty words?" She chuckled bitterly, crossing her arms as if ready to pounce. Eleanor felt anger boil within her. This was not the time for doubts. "You have no idea how hard I've worked to get here," she shot back, her voice steady. "Every setback has made me stronger. This fire may feel like the end, but it's just a challenge to rise above." Margaret's scoff echoed, but Eleanor turned her back on her, shifting her focus back to the kitchen. She could sense the frantic energy of the chefs behind her. They were her family, a team. She had to ensure they knew how vital they were. "Let us get this under control," she shouted, her voice filled with urgency. "Cut the gas, start using the fire extinguishers, and let us work together." With that, she felt the energy shift, the determination building like the heat of the flames. Chefs began moving with purpose, grabbing extinguishers and forming a human chain to pass more supplies. Eleanor felt a wave of power surge through her. The chaos was turning into something tangible, a palpable wave of resilience. Moments later, she joined them, grabbing a fire extinguisher and heading toward the rising flames. The thick smoke swirled around her, but she was undeterred. Each step toward the fire felt like reclaiming a piece of her soul. It wasn't just about this moment anymore, it was about proving to herself and everyone else that she belonged here. Suddenly, she caught sight of Jason re-emerging from the haze, his expression mixed with concern and excitement. "Eleanor. We need to redirect that fire away from the supplies." He gestured with urgency. Her heart raced as she processed his words. In this chaotic ballet of flames and ambition, Eleanor could feel the tide turning. Determination coursed through her veins like the adrenaline pushing her forward. "Let us do it." As they worked together, the flames began to ebb, retreating like a tide. The cheers of the customers outside wafted in, lifting her spirits even higher. But just before they could call it a victory, she heard Margaret again. "I wouldn't celebrate just yet, Eleanor. This is just the beginning," she taunted, her voice cutting into Eleanor's moment of triumph. Eleanor turned to Margaret, her heart pounding in her chest, knowing the battle was far from over. Was she really prepared to face whatever Margaret had in store? The fires simmered in the kitchen, but Eleanor felt another kind of fire igniting within her. This wasn't just about culinary success anymore, it was about fighting for respect, for her journey. She glanced at the waiting diners and back at her team, ready to show everyone just how strong she could be. As she took a step closer to Margaret, bracing for confrontation, she couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing. Just what would Margaret do next to tear down what she had built? The question loomed, waiting to be answered. Eleanor took a breath, standing her ground, and prepared to confront her grandmother. The chaos of the kitchen dimmed, her heart thumping like a drum as she faced the woman symbolizing everything she despised. Fear loomed, but so did the strength gathered from her community, from Jason, and from herself. "Why are you really here, Margaret?" Eleanor asked, her voice resolute. "You've always wanted to keep me under your thumb. This isn't about me failing. This is about me standing up." The tension in the air crackled, but Margaret raised her chin defiantly. "This is a mess, and you think you've proven something with your little diner? Look around. You're just a small-town cook trying to attract attention." Eleanor felt the flames igniting within her, a powerful response rising like phoenixes from ashes. "I don't need high society's approval. The only validation I crave comes from the joy I bring to my community." The crowd outside began clamoring with excitement. The fire threats dwindled as Eleanor's chefs took control. Each moment strengthened not just their resolve but also the bond in Eleanor's heart. It was about so much more than the diner, it was about family, her chosen family of townspeople who loved her, who believed in her. Margaret stepped forward, trying to regain the upper hand. "You talk about community, yet you're using this event to prove your worth to me. You think they'll love you when they find out how you turned your back on your lineage? I'm finally creating my legacy. One built on collaboration and love, not fear or judgment." Eleanor stepped closer, locking eyes with her grandmother. "What you call lineage, I see as shackles." The crowd began murmuring, sensing the gravity of the moment. Eleanor's words hung heavy, awakening something in them all, a shared desire for authenticity over pretense. The diner had never just been about food, it was a gathering place for souls seeking connection. Just then, Jason emerged at her side, holding a fire blanket. "Eleanor," he said softly, "I've got your back. You're doing this for them, for us." That gave her heart a glow. With his presence beside her, she felt more like a warrior, determined to own her narrative. You're right, Eleanor said, turning to the crowd. Tonight is about showing how a community thrives together. Instead of competing, we should lift each other up. Let us celebrate what makes us unique rather than tearing it down. A cheer erupted from the onlookers, igniting an ecstatic camaraderie. Eyes shone with recognition. They were all part of something bigger, they belonged. Margaret stepped away, visibly shaken. You'll regret this, Eleanor. All of this can crumble in an instant, she hissed, but Eleanor held her ground, a storm of defiance brewing in her spirit. We've weathered the storm together, and we're just getting started. The words were fiery, igniting resilience within both her and the townsfolk. The fire behind them flickered out as the last of the kitchen crew rolled back doors to release the remnants of smoke, and a new energy soared with each cheer. The spirit of their community filled every corner, exciting even the most timid diners. Eleanor could feel them embracing her not just for the food she created, but for the person she had become. Let us do this as a family. She called out, determined to move forward. With every heartbeat, she sensed the lingering presence of Margaret fade further into the background, dismissed by the unity bursting forth in the diner. Suddenly, the mayor stepped forward, handing Eleanor the mic she had dropped earlier. I can't imagine anyone who deserves this night more than you, Eleanor. Both for your tenacity and how you inspire all of us. A wave of cheers followed, and Jason smiled at her with admiration that filled her with gratitude. In this moment, Eleanor realized it wasn't just about the dish or the fire that threatened to extinguish her dreams. It was about her choice to stand tall, no longer intimidated and ready to embrace the love of her chosen family. Finally, Eleanor looked straight at Margaret, whose face was a mixture of shock and disbelief. You see, I won't run from my past or hide behind your expectations. I'm proud of who I am now. Margaret's expression changed, a flicker of respect trailing on the edges of her cold facade. Could it be? Could she finally understand the essence of community over legacy? As the night unfolded, Eleanor knew this was not the end but a new beginning, a celebration of resilience, love, and the magnificence of connection. One filled with light, laughter, and savory delights. The diner thrummed with life, a true testament of what they could create together. As laughter and joy echoed through the diner, Eleanor whispered to Jason. Today is a new chapter. We really did it. Together, he replied, his eyes sparkling with hope, firmly understanding the change they sparked. With hearts full of dreams and eyes set toward the future, their community stood together, knowing that magic was alive and well in Maplewood. And Eleanor? She was no longer the small-town cook but a vital part of her home's heartbeat. So they danced, a little wild and a lot free, as the glow of their unity illuminated the night sky. In that moment, Eleanor knew that nothing could extinguish this flame. Her heart raced with newfound trust in herself and the family surrounding her. The world felt full of possibilities, an open road ahead, ready to embrace whatever came next, and for the audience buzzing with hope, it was a beautiful reminder that transformation begins with just one act of courage. They would watch this journey unfold, convinced that love could change everything. Now, you have to act on this moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now because it feeds the algorithm. Your support truly matters. Comment with your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the power of supporting the channel through these actions.